It's Friday night. We're doing a little bit of a special. It's a Friday night edition of the podcast here. Your host here, Roto Superstar Brandon Murkison himself, flying solo with another episode of Woo Fantasy right here on rotoballer.com, rotoballer.com, where you can find the best premium content on the internet right now for all of your fantasy sports needs. Rotoballer.com, promo code WooFantasy gets you all the discounts on everything across the board. Whatever you need, rotoballer.com has it for you guys there over at the website. So definitely go and check that out, rotoballer.com. Like I said, flying solo tonight, doing the podcast all by my lonesome. Post Thanksgiving edition. Hopefully, all you and yours had a fantastic holiday with friends and family out there. Co-host, he is on location, doing the family thing as we speak right now over in Middle Tennessee. So at real FF Goat, he will not be joining us this evening, but like I said, post Thanksgiving edition here that we're going with this evening, or as it should be known, the Antonio Gibson Thanksgiving special. So those of you that have followed this podcast for a numerous amount of years, or even dating back to the beginning of this year, as I was doing my breakdowns and getting ready for the NFL draft, you do know that I was the conductor of said Antonio Gibson's hype train. So uh, if you definitely you want to follow along with us when it comes to some of the player programming, player profiling, and things like that. We do kind of typically go ahead and give you some of the action on the front end as opposed to a lot of people. But so definitely follow us here at woo_fantasy. But as things are, I mean, this has been it's been a wild week, ladies and gentlemen. Lots of news to cover when it comes to the world of fantasy football. It's been a crazy day in terms of player news, injuries, things of that nature. It's been across the board. I mean, we've had Todd Gurley declared out, DJ Shark declared out, Lamar Jackson test positive for COVID yesterday. I mean, that's just some of the things that we're looking at across the board. But as you know, we have the Steelers and Ravens have been pushed back to tentatively scheduled now for Tuesday of this upcoming week, which then moves the Thursday night Ravens Cowboys game that was supposed to be next Thursday night. That's moving out to Monday afternoon for week 13. So a lot of moving pieces are in place right now, and it's we're gonna try to get you set and ready for everything that is week 12 as I go through the woos and boos of the week and get your lineup set for some wins. Hopefully we can answer some questions as we go here along as well. This is going to be on the Woo Fantasy YouTube channel. If you've not yet, we have those things listed right here on the sides of the screen. Boom, like and share. Boom, subscribe now. That would do me a huge favor if you could do that. If you've not been in on here yet, just get in there, like and share, subscribe now. As things are going, that this is the downside of being the solo person doing the podcast and handling everything on my own. Trying to get everything set and ready to get all the information out to the Woo Nation, so you can send in your questions. And that's what I'm doing at this moment, setting out the link for everybody to join in. But like I said, a lot of news that we're going to go through and cover, hopefully, to get everything settled and ready for you. Uh, had to apologize. A little bit of dead air here. I'm getting everything set and ready. Uh, but like I said, this is post Thanksgiving Antonio Celebration Day. Of course, it could be referred to as well as Will Fuller Hype Day. We saw what he did, Deshaun Watson did yesterday on Thanksgiving. Hopefully, those of you that had those players in your lineups are celebrating today. Uh, it's definitely it's been a big day for those guys post games yesterday. So definitely definitely starting things off on the right foot when it comes to what we saw from those players in those games yesterday. Of course, like I mentioned, Deshaun Watson has a big day. Will Fuller has a big day. Brandon Cooks has a okay day. If you played him and started him, he gave you a very solid stat line as well. Playing him, possibly along the lines of a wide receiver two, wide receiver three in your lineups. He did come through for you in those avenues. But of course, the big winner of the day and what's been all the scuttlebutt last night and also today on Twitter has been the rise of Antonio Gibson. You can't really. I mean, it's no surprise here, and you've listened to me all summer long. Really hype this man up to the moon. Really driving the price up when it comes to his draft stock and what I expected from him this season in fantasy football and his potential on that Redskins team or Redskins. Throw a dollar into the jar. Washington football team. Gosh, that's getting old having to remember how to say that. But yeah, so Antonio Gibson. I mean, we've seen since week 8, snap share has risen dramatically. I think he was up to 70% or above yesterday in that backfield. We didn't see a lot of J.D. McKissick, so hopefully that's a sign of things to come for the Antonio Gibson owners out there. So make sure you're plugging him into your lineups each and every week. I mean, you got him at a value in your drafts. He's likely your RB2, RB3 on your roster. But now you can play him in that RB1 slot in certain matchups. I mean, and feel free and feel good about it. So definitely get him into those lineups, keep him, plug him in, and play him, and keep on it as he looks to be a driving force as we get down through a lot of the playoff crunch time. It's week 12. Hopefully, we're going to get these wins here, getting the last 2 weeks of the season. If you've already secured a bye, fantastic, feeling great. You should feel fantastic. Just get ready to get that starting lineup set and ready to go, and have them ready to play in the playoffs come crunch time because that's going to be the biggest thing for a lot of the fantasy owners right now. We've seen it throughout the season, and we're seeing it big time today. Injuries are all the rage. And that's what we're seeing when it comes to fantasy football. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, Todd Gurley declared out, DJ Shark declared out, Lamar Jackson's now off the slate as well. We have some names that are going to be missing the games. You got Salvin Ahmed for the Dolphins has already been declared out. To me, I think personally that's going to be an indication that we're going to see Miles Gaskin return. I did put on Twitter that I think that he's going to be a start for anybody that owns Miles Gaskin here in Week 12. So definitely get him into your lineups. But the biggest thing is I've had tons of questions about it already on Twitter today. What to do with Brian Hill? Brian Hill is a guy that I've got as a mid-tier RB2 right now. So you're definitely going to want to slide him into your starting lineups. He needs to be a guy that's going to be started in pretty much all leagues. I think he's going to be chalk on DFS this week, so be sure to plug him in that flex position on your DFS rosters over at FanDuel. FanDuel promo code Woo Fantasy. We want to get that one out there as well. Uh, Jump in and get on there. We're going to start things off here. Before I get into the woos and boos, I do want to take this question here that's just popped in. We've got Andrew Lennox popping in here. Hopefully, you're liked and subscribed to the YouTube channel, sir. But pick 3 out of David Montgomery, Raheem Mostert, who should be back. I think he's going to get cleared tomorrow. Wayne Gallman, Kalen Ballage, Miles Gaskin, or Brian Hill. This is a standard format, and we're needing to take 3. So for me, um, I definitely am going to be playing Brian Hill, and I'm definitely going to be playing Miles Gaskin. And really, out of all these options that you have there, I have Wayne Gallman ranked the highest out of all of these. So I think that's going to be the play. You're going to play with Wayne Gallman. You're going to go Miles Gaskin and Brian Hill. So Andrew Lennox, plug him into your lineup. Hopefully that helps to get you a win this week. So let's go from there. But now let's go ahead and start and jump into these woos and boos from the week and get things going. Uh, Always fantastic doing these shows. Or like I said, flying solo here in this Week 12 fantasy preview. We're going to start it off with the Tennessee Titans at the Indianapolis Colts. Colts giving up the 3.5 here to the Tennessee Titans. Over under on this game here is 51. We saw this game just a couple of weeks ago on Thursday Night Football. The Colts did come away with the win in Nashville that night. Tennessee looked a little bit out of sorts. Special teams were a big issue for that team that night as well, setting up a lot of short fields for the Indianapolis Colts. It was the presumable smash spot for Jonathan Taylor that week, and it wound up being the Naheem Hines game. And then we flip it last week, where a lot of people were expecting to see Naheem Hines get a ton of work for the Colts in that backfield, and we saw that it was a Jonathan Taylor game last week. So, what to expect here between these two teams? You have Tennessee is giving up actually a positive 20.8% in pass DVOA currently as a defense. That's going to be where you're going to attack in this game. So, for me, the biggest woo in this game, I'm actually going to go with Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman's a guy that I've got ranked awfully high headed into the week. I believe if you own Michael Pittman, you need to get him in your lineups. Uh, it's a good matchup for him. So I'm definitely going to be playing him across all formats. Um, Derrick Henry, initially, I had as a boo for this game. I had him ranked a little bit lower, although I was expecting kind of low end RB1 production. Now you have the Colts that are going to be without DeForest Buckner, two or three other defensive linemen as well in this game. And I think that's really going to affect what they can do as far as stopping the run. So I think it actually helps Derrick Henry to a degree. And I did move him up a little bit in my rankings accordingly. But for the Titans, I think we're going to stick with A.J. Brown. Has some good coverage in this game against Xavier Rhodes. And we saw he did fall flat on his face a couple weeks ago. That's been the only game he has not scored a touchdown since the bye week in week 4 for the Titans. So I think they're gonna do what they can to get AJ Brown the ball. You're gonna play him with confidence. He's a player you're not really pulling out of your lineups right now, anyways. But Rocky Alcen's going to be facing Corey Davis. I think that's going to be a battle on the other side of the field. Adam Humphries is now declared out for the Titans as well. We've seen that they've been mixing in a lot of other players, like Cam Batson, Khalif Raymond's been getting in certain packages. So for me, I think that's going to open up a little bit of things over the middle for Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith's been a guy that he's flying under the radar. He's not getting it done in terms of PPR format scoring, but he's getting in the end zone at a high rapid rate. So I think you're going to play him as your tight end one this week with confidence. So that's where we're going to go with that. I'm going to woo Michael Pittman here, and as things stand right now, all things according to plan, I'm probably going to continue to boo this Colts backfield. We just don't know what to expect. I've got Jonathan Taylor ahead out of this three-headed monster in the backfield, but I mean, who's to say who's going to get the most totes out of this backfield? It's really hard to tell right now. So I think Jonathan Taylor's the guy you need to go with. We saw what Naheem Hines did, so if you want to plug him in at a flex position, go right ahead. So that's what I'm going to look at there between these two. In this game, we're going to move on to Arizona and New England. Arizona is actually the road favorite here, giving up 2.5 points with an over under 49.5. We saw Kyler Murray is a little bit banged up heading into this game, but he's been cleared, pulled off the injury report. He's good to go. Uh, as far as the New England Patriots, we saw that Belichick has announced that Sony Michel should be good to go in this game here, but we've seen Damian Harris really carry the load for this Patriots running back situation over the past numerous weeks. So that might be the area to attack here in this game. Uh, but between the two matchups here, you've got New England. They are running at a clip of 29.5% pass DVOA. That's really where you're wanting to attack. Stephon Gilmore is probably lined up against DeAndre Hopkins, making my woo of this game here Christian Kirk. And if you follow me on Twitter, you've seen that I've been all about Christian Kirk the last couple of days. Now Larry Fitzgerald declared out. I think this is just opening up to be a massive, massive game here. For me, I think Christian Kirk's going to get it done, putting in wide receiver two type numbers in this matchup here. The targets increased are going to help him immensely. When you look at the backfield, Kenyon Drake, Chase Edmonds, it's kind of a toss up. I think we're going to lean more Kenyon Drake if you had to choose between the two in certain lineups. So that's where I'm going to go there. But then on the New England side of the ball, I think they're going to have a little bit of a tougher time running the ball against the Arizona Cardinals defense. They are at a negative 12.4 run DVOA. So for me, it, Damian Harris, although he could be a good start spot, a good start this week in Week 12 with a good workload. I don't think he's going to get in the end zone like we saw last week. So I'm going to kind of shy away from that. Opening the door for me for Jacoby Myers on the Pats side of the things. We've seen that we have seen that Arizona's been a little bit more susceptible as far as allowing points to slot receivers. So that's kind of an area to attack. I think if they're going to move the ball a little bit through the air whatsoever, you're going to see more Jacoby Myers. You're going to see James White out of the backfield. So for me, that I'll probably look at this as a woo Christian Kirk type game here for the Arizona Cardinals, and I'm probably going to boo Damian Harris. I think we're going to see him kind of come down a little bit off of his performance from last week in Week 11. Moving on now, we've got Cleveland, the Brownies, visiting Jacksonville. The Mike Glennon led, you heard that correctly, Mike Glennon led Jacksonville Jaguars, who they're giving up 6.5 points. The Browns are the road favorite here. Over and under in this game is 49. I'm actually going to take the under here, and I think that we're going to see Cleveland cover this spread. And I didn't take the game previously. Arizona 2.5. I think Arizona. I'm actually going to take New England to win this game outright and not cover that 4.5 or that 49.5 on the total there. But getting back Cleveland, Jacksonville here. Jacksonville, Mike Glennon led a quarterback situation. Not great for fantasy. DJ Shark declared out. Chris Connolly declared out. They're going to be riding with, it looks like, Keelan Cole, Laviska Chenault, which that should be the play this week. And then also Colin Johnson. He's a guy that you could probably plug in is if you're looking for a really cheap option and kind of really low down the board in DFS. Colin Johnson's a guy that I would probably plug in at a really super cheap price to allow you to move money around elsewhere throughout your lineups. Um, but it's not exciting for the Jaguars offense here. James Robinson, I've got as kind of a low end RB1 right now. The volume alone is going to be something that's going to get him in line to produce for fantasy managers out there. So for me, I'm going to be wooing in this matchup here out of the Cleveland Browns. I'm going to woo Austin Hooper here. I think Austin Hooper's in line for a decent game here. Jacksonville actually does give up 12.9, looks like 12.9 points per game to a tight end position as far as terms of receptions. So not a bad matchup. I mean, we've seen Jarvis Landry has really been kind of disappointing most fantasy managers throughout the season. So what we expected once Odell Beckham went down, we were thinking that Jarvis Landry was going to really be the guy that's just going to hold him pass over pass over pass in this passing attack, and it's just not been the case. Baker Mayfield has struggled to get things done. It's been a really run heavy attack. So you're obviously going to be playing Nick Chubb. You're obviously going to be playing Kareem Hunt with confidence in this matchup here. I think they get out in front of the Jaguars. They stay ahead, and they put a lot of points on the board when it comes to fantasy scoring for those two running backs. So you're playing those two really with confidence. So I'm going to woo Austin Hooper. I like the matchup for him. So if you're streaming, you have that option of streaming at that position week in and week out. Austin Hooper's a guy that I think you want to sneak into your lineups this week. But for me, I'm going to boo pretty much anybody on the Jaguars passing game this week. Laviska's been the guy that I've talked up over the course of the last few hours. Is if you had to make a decision here, I think this hopefully could be the game where Laviska Shenault finally breaks out. I think they're going to have to really get creative with his offense with Mike Glennon back there under center. They're going to have to give Laviska Shenault a little bit more creativity back there. Give him the ball as a runner, wide receiver screens, get him in some space. I think Chenault's going to be the guy that's going to see more targets in this game here in Week 12. But overall, I'm really going to avoid that situation in itself all day long. Then moving on to the next game, we have Miami laying 7.5, visiting the New York Jets. 44 and a half is the over under in this game here. Oh, man. Sam Darnold back for the New York Jets. Likely seeing Miles Gaskin back for the Dolphins. We're still non-committal on Tua Tagovailoa starting for the Dolphins, but I think that's going to be something. He'll be in there. He'll be playing on this in this game on Sunday. So don't fret there. So for me, the biggest woo in this matchup here, but tying back in real quick, I'm gonna as far as taking the pick here. I think the Dolphins are just playing too well right now. Overall, the Jets are the Jets. They're gonna find a way to lose this game. So take Miami and take the over. I think this game hits the over, probably getting in the neighborhood of like 47. Uh, so I think this is actually going to hit the over here. But the biggest woo for me in this game here is going to be Devontae Parker. I think he's in line for a big game against that Jets secondary that has just been atrocious. They're giving up a total of 26.3 fantasy points per game to the outside wide receivers, and that is where Devontae Parker lines up pretty much all the time. Uh, the 42.3 altogether that they give up as a total to the wide receiver position. Actually, one of the second worst in the league. So this is going to be a situation where you want to attack that Jets defense from a DFS standpoint, season long standpoint for sure. You want to get Devontae Parker in your lineups. I think we're going to look at a little bit of Jakeem Grant this week too. He's a long shot play playing out of the slot. So you want to get him in there. Now the big question is, and this is a situation where Mike Gesicki should be a playable option for you, but he's been a playable option in with positive matchups weeks on end, and he's just not come through. Especially now with two at quarterback, that he's just not getting seeing the targets, just not getting producing value like we thought he was going to. So for me, you're gonna shy away from Mike Gesicki in this matchup here. But on the Jet side of the ball, Sam Darnold's back, which means Jamison Crowder's back. So Jamison Crowder's going to be a guy that you're going to want to play. I think he's going to have a low, a floor as a wide receiver 3 this week. So get him into your lineups. I think he's going to be a viable option there in PPR formats. We see when Sam Darnold's in there, he targets Jamison Crowder left and right. So I think he's going to be a guy you're going to want to play. But then that limits what we're going to see from Bashad Perriman and also Denzel Mims. Mims, I like as far as the player, but we just don't know about the rapport between he and Sam Darnold. If you're looking for kind of a big play threat, that's going to be Brashad Perriman. We've seen he's starting to kind of pick up steam here lately. So that might be your long shot play for Perriman to get into the end zone on a deep ball. But for me, if I'm picking out of any of these Jets wide receivers, I'm going to be taking Jameson Crowder in this one here. So just to recap that, we're going to go woo Devontae Parker in this matchup here. And I'm going to boo the Jets running back situation. It's just not good. When you got Frank Gore is your lead back, it's just not a good situation. LaMichael Pirine is out. So they're going to be leaning heavily on Frank Gore, and it's just not going to get the job done very well. We see uh, although the Dolphins have a positive, or technically a negative, it's 1.1% to the good uh, run DVOA. That's an area for them to be able to attack. I just don't think the Jets are going to have enough offensive firepower to really be able to put forth an effort here in this game. So we're going to boo that situation there. Getting to the Las Vegas Raiders visiting the Atlanta Falcons. Over under in this game's 55 and a half. Vegas actually laying the road points here, giving up 3 points here. I'm actually going to take the Raiders to win this game outright. And I think we're going to hit. I think we're going to hit that over here. It's probably going to be more favorable for the Raiders. Like I mentioned at the top of the show, Todd Gurley declared out. Julio Jones trending downward, did not practice today, so I'm not feeling good about Julio Jones playing in this game. And you know what that means. If you've listened to these podcasts in previous weeks, if you follow me on Twitter as well, what that what that means as far as fantasy potential, it means nothing for Matt Ryan. We saw Matthew Berry actually tweeted out earlier today on Twitter in the games where Julio Jones is not playing. Matt Ryan's averaging 9 points a game fantasy. So you would think that that's going to help and improve the situation for Calvin Ridley. It's going to help improve the situation for Russell Gage. Uh, Hayden Hurst, we've seen has been questionable all week long, but he did log practice today, so he's likely in. So that situation altogether, that's going to be one to avoid for me. I've got Matt Ryan pushed way down my quarterback rankings right now. Calvin Ridley, I do see getting into the end zone in this game, but outside of that, I think he's really their only viable option this week when it comes to the passing game. But the biggest woo, and I'll keep mentioning it all day long, answered it with a question just a few minutes ago. Brian Hill. Brian Hill's going to be the guy you're going to want to attack. The Las Vegas Raiders have actually the worst run DVOA in fantasy football right now. They give up 28.4 points to the running back in terms of fantasy scoring. That's where the Falcons are going to really have to make their hay in this game. They're going to have to run the ball left and right in this game to win it. As far as the flip side of things, you're going to want to go with uh, Derek Carr and Nelson Aguilar without a doubt. I think that's going to be a stack that you can put in DFS lineups this week. Atlanta is giving up 21.3 in terms of DVOA on the year right now. So that's going to be an area to attack. Quarterback total, they actually give up 26.3, which still is the worst in fantasy in terms of points allowed to the position. So for your Derek Carr is going to be a guy that I've got well inside my top 10 this week in terms of fantasy quarterback rankings. Nelson Aguilar has been the guy that it's his go-to guy. So you're playing Nelson Aguilar, you're playing Darren Waller. I've got him as the top tight end for the weekend as well. So those two options are your go-tos on that Raiders offense. I know we've seen Josh Jacobs has been a little bit banged up and been limited in practice throughout the week. I think he's going to be good to go. But if you're in a pinch and I mean you're bottom of the barrel when it comes to this, you're going to be playing. Uh, you have a shot to play Devontae Booker. I mean, we've seen that he's been getting some totes here lately, been getting into the end zone. So there's been some usage there. So if you're in a bind and you really need to plug in a guy, as a flex option, you've been hampered by injuries. Devontae Booker's probably a guy you can go out and grab off the waiver wire and plug him in and play him this week as well. So we're gonna woo Brian Hill in this matchup. I'm a big fan of what he can do in this ball game here. We're going to boo Matt Ryan here, so we're going to keep it on the same side of the teams here between the two. Going to the next game, we've got the New York Giants giving up 5.5 points on the road against the Brandon Allen led Cincinnati Bengals. Looks like the lowest point total on the week here at 42.5. I'm going to go with the under actually in this game and the Giants to win this game and cover the spread. Bengals are they're beat up. Joe Mixon's on IR. Joe Burrow's done for the year now. Uh, they have no tight end to speak of. I mean, Drew Sample's a guy that played one great game and has been kind of disappearing act since. What does this do with the Joe Burrow injury? What does it do for the Bengals? A lot of talk have been about that earlier in the week on Twitter and a lot of the fantasy sports shows on Fantasy Sports Network on SiriusXM. That's it's been tough to really gauge what we're going to see here. A lot of people have been down on T. Higgins because of the Burrow injury, because they started to really kind of build a rapport between the two of them. So I can agree with that. I think that's going to be a situation where it's you can you. I think you're going to play. For me, I think you're going to play. You can play Tyler Boyd still with some confidence because I think he's going to be the guy that's going to be that short to intermediate route guy. He's going to catch passes over the middle, so I think you're going to still play him. I think I've got him as a kind of low end wide receiver 2, high end wide receiver 3 at the moment, maybe a little bit further down the board by the time we get to Sunday. Just not a lot of upside. The floor is going to be there, but outside of that, I just don't know how to read the situation with T. Higgins. I don't know what to expect from Brandon Allen when it comes to that. I'm not feeling great about it. AJ Green, I think you can pretty much put that to the side. I think you're going to see James Bradbury playing opposite of AJ Green. That's going to be a shutdown situation there for AJ Green. So if you're thinking about rostering AJ Green this week, don't do it. Put him on the bench. For me, that would be the biggest boo in this matchup. Would probably be AJ Green. Woos though, I'm going to be playing Wayne Gallman. He's picking up steam. He's playing well, getting a lot of points here over the last 2 to 3 games for the New York Giants. I think he's separated himself in that backfield. He's the guy that they lean on. He's getting what we were hoping from Saquon Barkley, as bad as it is to say. With Barkley being down for the year with a knee injury, I think we're going to go with Gallman in this matchup and feel good about it. Pass catcher wise, I like Sterling Shepard. I think there's an avenue for Sterling Shepard to really put up some positive points in this game as well. So that's what I'm looking at there. Gonna woo Wayne Gallman. Kind of a mini woo. Gio Bernard's been a little bit banged up, but all signs are pointing to him playing. I think we're gonna mini woo Gio Bernard because the matchup is decent. I'm expecting to see Gio catch some dump offs in the on the outside coming out of the backfield. I think Brandon Allen's probably going to be able to hit him when it comes to that. But outside of that, I think Tyler Boyd's going to be a guy that you can kind of play there as well. But outside of that, there's just not a lot that the Bengals are going to offer. So I'm going to boo, like I said, booing AJ Green here in this matchup, and we're going to woo Wayne Gallman in that Giants Bengals game. We're getting now to the Los Angeles Chargers. Going to go to Buffalo. Buffalo giving up 5.5 points at home. 53.5 is the over under. I think this game hits the over, but I think the Chargers are covering that 5.5. So that's what we're looking at here. This should be a shootout between those two. I like almost all parties in this game across the board. Austin Eckler possibly back. You're playing Austin Eckler. Justin Herbert, you're playing Justin Herbert. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams should be a good play this week as well. Kind of a long shot, low end wide receiver 3, high end flex type play. Um, Hunter Henry, he's been up and down, but I think you play him in this matchup. Uh, but then you go into the Buffalo side of the ball. Zach Moss is in a good position this week. Obviously, we're playing Josh Allen, but like I said, Zach Moss is in a good position this week coming off the bye. I think he's going to see an uptick in work and usage in the backfield. I like Zach Moss to get in the end zone this week. Um, we saw earlier today John Brown declared out, which is a big uptick for Cole Beasley this week. Get him into your lineups. That's that low end, that long shot wide receiver 3 this week. But I'm going to out of the matchups here. I'm going to woo your big target pass catchers in this game. Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen, I've actually got as the top wide receiver on the board this week. Playing him easily here. But if we're going to boo anybody here, I'm going to boo what's probably going to be now the backup running backs in this matchup here. Probably going to lose a lot of usage out of Kalen Ballage, and you're probably not going to be playing Devin Singletary. So that's going to be my boo in this game here. Next game up on the docket, we got Minnesota going to New Orleans, I believe. No, Panthers. Panthers traveling to Minnesota. Minnesota giving up 3 points. 51.5 is the over under. Whew, that's that one's we got Teddy Time back for the Panthers. Hmm. That's gonna probably we're yeah, and I know Christian McCaffrey's being declared. He's been declared as questionable, but they've actually come out or later on this afternoon and said that they were not anticipating Christian McCaffrey playing. So I think that's going to be a good indication for Mike Davis. I think we're going to see a lot of usage out of Mike Davis this week. Curtis Samuel, you want to get in the lineup. You want to continue to ride that hot hand out of Curtis Samuel. So That's what I'm going to be doing there as well. Uh, Between your two outside receivers, though, I've had some questions about DJ Moore. I've had some questions about Robbie Anderson. Um, Both are in line for decent matchups, but if I had to really kind of pick and choose between the two, DJ Moore is going to be the guy I'm going to go with. Seeing a lot more workload in recent weeks than Robbie Anderson. Now, we've really seen since the emergence of Curtis Samuel in this offense, we've seen Robbie Anderson really take a break and kind of slide down the totem pole in terms of usage here. So I like DJ Moore. They're going to be playing from behind. So that's going to be the guys that I'm going to go with on the Carolina side of things. So, and then outside of that, we go to the Minnesota side of the ball. Adam Thielen tested positive for COVID, uh, looking unlikely that he's going to play in this game this week. So obviously that's Justin Jefferson. Woo to the utmost degree. Woo to the utmost degree. Justin Jefferson's a top 10 play this week with Adam Thielen without Adam Thielen in that lineup. You're going to get Justin Jefferson in. You're going to play him without hesitation. Obviously, Dalvin Cook is Dalvin Cook. You're playing him. Kirk Cousins, I think it's going to affect his overall numbers. I had him easily as a guy that was just barely inside the top 10 in this week with the matchup. As Carolina's given up 13.6 in pass DVOA, so that was kind of an area to target. But now with one less weapon here, and you've got Irv Smith is also doubtful, so that's going to be Kyle Rudolph getting most of the attention at tight end, who's as obviously I think he's going to be a sneaky play at tight end this week. We've seen it before when Thielen's been out of the lineup and no Irv Smith to contend with. Kyle Rudolph's been a guy that's really produced fairly well and gotten into the end zone. So if you're looking for that long shot play, a guy that's going to get you some points that you're not really having to pay at a premium, especially in DFS, Kyle Rudolph is a guy you can target, kind of a punt play cheap option that you can get into your lineups in DFS. I would plug him in and go with it. Um, so Minnesota, like I mentioned, 41.6 is the total that they give up per game to opposing wide receivers in fantasy. Second worst, third worst in the league. That's an area to attack. So you do want to go DJ Moore here, I believe. Curtis Samuel, you want him in play, like I mentioned, to start off this capsule for this game. Between the game itself, though, I think you're going to take Minnesota. I believe we're going to hit the over, but just barely in this game. So you take Minnesota in the over here between those two. New Orleans at Denver. The Taysom Hill experience rides again, ladies and gentlemen. This time on the road, visiting the Broncos, giving up 6 points as the road favorite, 43.5 points here in this game. They're expecting it to be kind of a low scoring defensive battle. I'm actually not shocked by that, but I do think we're going to hit the over in this game, but slightly. Uh, and I'm going to actually, with the way the New Orleans defense has been playing lately, I think we're going to go with New Orleans to cover that 6 points. Probably going to win by 7 or 8 points in this matchup here. But looking at the game here, we've got Denver negative 2.5 pass DVOA, run DVOA 9.1 negative on that one. Solid defense, not as solid as the New Orleans Saints defense, negative 11.2, negative 34.8 when it comes to run DVOA. So way off. That is a boo for me. Way off on Melvin Gordon this week. Way off on Philip Lindsay. You do not want to play those two against that New Orleans Saints front. They're not going to get it done for you. You know, we saw Gordon's coming off a solid game last week in week 11. Not going to be the case this week. You want him on the bench. You do not want to play him. Outside of that, I think the Broncos offensively overalls are just going to struggle in this game. I think you're going to see Drew Lock continue his Jekyll and Hyde ways, not play very well in the first half of this game, probably not pick it up until they're trailing in this game. So I'm kind of off most Broncos offensive weapons when it comes to fantasy scoring this week. You probably have better options to put in the lineups in front of them. And that even includes Noah Fant. I've kind of dropped him a little bit down in the rankings due to this. But when it goes to the New Orleans side of the ball, we saw it last week. That Taysom Hill to Michael Thomas connection, I think, continues to stay hot this week. You're obviously playing both of those two without hesitation. Alvin Kamara, is a conundrum with Taysom Hill at quarterback right now. What to do in that situation? It's an odd one to think, but you're obviously going to play Alvin Kamara. Did not produce like we thought he was going to last week with a solid matchup. So temper your expectations. Hopefully should get some passes a little bit more out of the backfield this week. We saw he wasn't targeted much in that first half of the game last week, which was odd to see. Taysom Hill being at quarterback, I think, opens up the playbook a little bit more for Sean Payton and the offensive play callers. Um, they like to move the pocket a little bit more with Taysom Hill back there. So for me, that's probably the biggest issue. Is normally you have Alvin Kamara breaking out wide, Drew Brees firmly in the pocket, hits him in stride. Now you have Taysom Hill that's kind of elongating plays in that pocket back there, not being able to hit Alvin Kamara as he's breaking out in stride. And he's kind of having to wait until all Kamara gets open and hits him in a spot, not really giving him the space to operate that we're accustomed to seeing. So if we're looking at it here, I'm going to woo Taysom Hill. I think he continues to go here. I've got him as a solid QB1 play this week. So we're going to go with that. And then, like I mentioned, booing Melvin Gordon. There's no way I'm going to play Melvin Gordon this week. Just not a chance here. Next game up on the docket, we have San Francisco visiting the Los Angeles Rams. Rams giving up 7 points at home here, over under a 45. Uh, I think I think we're gonna see the Los Angeles Rams here cover, and it's gonna be an under in this game, I believe. These two teams like to battle it out, really kind of hit each other hard. I think we're gonna see a lot of that in this game. For me, uh, we're expecting to have Raheem Mostert back. So I think out of what the options are for the San Francisco 49ers, he's the only guy that I'm really willing to put in my starting lineups. Um, I think he's going to see a big workload first week back, so expect to see him really kind of carry the load for this team. So I would probably plug him in as a flex option this week. But outside of that, there's really not much that we're looking at here. I think we're still expecting to see Brandon Ayuk get um, activated off the COVID list. He went on right before the bye week, so we're looking to see that possibly on Saturday before the game. Debo Samuel's expected to be back too, but I just don't know what we're expecting to see out of Debo Samuel this week. The quarterback play for the 49ers has really been poor. Uh, most of the time we do see Debo getting some touches and some looks out of the backfield as a runner. Expect to see some of that in this game as well, but I don't think that the upside is going to be there to play him first week back in. Switching over to the Ram side of the ball, I'm going to woo both Cup and Robert Woods this week. Pass DVOA for the San Francisco defense is 10.1%. Actually, one of the kind of lower ones in the league. So that is kind of the area to attack for the Los Angeles Rams in this game. That backfield we've seen has just been a muddied mess over the last 2 to 3 weeks. Daryl Henderson, Malcolm Brown, Cam Akers. Cam Akers is starting to see a little bit more time in the backfield, getting a little bit more looks as far in terms of snap count. It just really muddies the water back there, and it just makes it hard to pick one of those guys to play. I'm kind of steering clear of that situation, hoping that one of these guys separates from the other, like Daryl Henderson was earlier in the season. So now it's just kind of an avoid situation for me. But I'm wooing both pass catchers, Cooper Cup and Robert Woods, in this game. I think both are in store for solid games, like we saw this past Monday night. I think that trend continues this week. Jared Goff, uh, he's kind of a good person as far as in terms of spot start. Say if you're a Lamar Jackson owner, now you're all of a sudden out without a quarterback he's been declared out because of COVID reasons. Jared Goff's likely out there on the waiver wire. He could probably come in and give you a nice little solid 2 touchdown game. Nothing really to write home about, but enough to give you some points and give you a potential chance at a win this week here in week 12. So that's what we're looking at there. But we're going to woo both the pass catchers for the Rams. We're going to boo the pass catching situation for the San Francisco 49ers here. We're going to kind of avoid that situation altogether. Going to the Kansas City Tampa Bay game, which is the marquee matchup of the week. Highest total on the board at 56. KC getting 3.5 points as the road favorite here. I'm actually going to stay with Kansas City. I think they win this game by and cover the spread, and I think we're going to hit the over in this game as well. Even though both defenses are not really too bad, I think the offenses for both sides are good enough to really kind of hit that button and get to the over here. Um, Kansas City side of things, Tyreek Hill is going to be the biggest woo for me this week. I think he's going to be in store for a great game this week. Uh, One of my higher rated wide receivers in terms of rankings this week. Uh, but outside of that, I mean, we're obviously you're going to be starting Travis Kelsey as you would normally. That goes without saying. Patrick Mahomes goes without saying. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, that's the situation that's been a little bit boggling for this matchup here. It's not a great matchup. He's not going to be expected to get a lot in terms of on the ground scoring. If he gets anything, it's going to have to come from out of the backfield. And so if it gives you a nice 5 catches this week. I think it's going to increase his chances to produce at an RB2 level. But if you have a better option to plug in and play ahead of CEH this week, I would probably make that move. I would probably get them in the lineup. That matchup is just not good for him here. Tampa Bay run DVOA is negative 39.2%. So we're actually going to steer clear of them in this matchup. Um, Tampa Bay side of things, though, I think you're going to play all your pass catchers. I've got all of these guys, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and Antonio Brown, all inside my top 36. They're going to be playing in a back and forth game. We're going to have to throw the ball. I like all three of those to produce some solid numbers this week. I think Mike Evans and Godwin both get into the end zone, so you're going to play with them with confidence, I believe. In the backfield, is it Fournette? Is it Ronald Jones? I mean, it's tough to say. We cannot pick a winner between these guys right now. One week it's Ronald Jones producing great numbers. Well, next week it's Leonard Fournette. If they would settle in on one, I would love the matchup here, and I would pick that one to play. But as the just murkiness of that situation back there right now, it makes it hard to really kind of play either one. I've got Jones ranked slightly ahead of Fournette, but I've got both of them outside of my top 24 right now. So I'm not feeling the usage out of these guys heading into this matchup here. So I'm kind of booing that situation. And so we're going to woo Tyreek Hill in this matchup, and we're going to boo the Buccaneers backfield situation. We're going to avoid that. Sunday night football, we've got Chicago at Green Bay. 45-point over under. We've got Green Bay getting the 8.5 points against the Mitchell Trubisky led Chicago Bears. And I wish my co-host, Mr. Heffley, the real FF Goat on Twitter, I wish he was here to really kind of break down his thoughts on his love affair with Mitchell Trubisky, now back under center for the Chicago Bears. Look, I'm not expecting much. I think this game is going to be a low scoring affair. I do think the Green Bay Packers hit that 8.5. I think they cover. I'm not expecting much out of the Bears offense. They're getting David Montgomery back this week. If you're in a pinch and you're needing a guy that's going to get a lot of volume as a flex play this week, David Montgomery's your guy. Yeah, I think he's going to be someone you're going to want to play just based on volume alone, but don't expect a lot out of him in terms of potential scoring, even though Green Bay gives it up on the ground. I mean, that's the only appeal here. They give up 30.6 points per game in fantasy scoring to opposing running backs. But does Chicago's offensive line have the gusto to get it done for David Montgomery and open holes? I don't see it happening. So the matchup is there. I think the volume alone gives him what you need in terms of potential fantasy scoring as a flex play alone. I mean, he's a desperation play. There's going to be plenty of options that we're seeing with injuries abound that I'm going to be playing ahead in this matchup for David Montgomery. Allen Robinson's the only other option that I would be playing, but I've got him outside of my top 24 right now. I'm not expecting a lot. He's wide receiver 3 type value this week. Just not going to be giving you much. He's going to be matched up against Jair Alexander, some Kevin King. Both of those are probably going to cause him problems. We've seen Mitchell Trubisky has struggled getting the ball to Allen Robinson in the past, and I think that continues here. So I'm going to really, I mean, unless I have to play Allen Robinson, unless I have to play David Montgomery, Those are going to be the only reasons I get him in my lineup. Now, outside of that, we're going to Green Bay. You're obviously going to be starting your studs here. You're going to be starting Aaron Jones. You're going to be starting Aaron Rodgers. You're going to be starting Devontae Adams. Now it looks like Marquez Valdez Scantling is going to be out of this matchup here. Opens the door for Alan Lazard. Nice kind of a long shot option here, but I'm not expecting much in terms of that. So we're gonna woo Devontae Adams in this matchup here. We're gonna boo Allen Robinson. As much as I hate to say it, I don't feel the upside there, and I'm going to avoid that altogether. Seattle at Philadelphia Monday Night Football. Seattle's the road favorite, giving up 5.5 points here. 50.5 is the over under. Um, I'm actually going to take Philadelphia to cover the 5.5. We're going to hit the over here. I think it's going to be a nice back and forth type game. I think you're going to play all parties involved here. Seattle side of the ball, Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and the returning Chris Carson. All lose for me. I think they are all great plays this week. Should get them into your lineups. A long shot play for the Seahawks, Will Dissly. We saw Greg Olson is now done for the year. He's out. So Will Dissly, Jacob Hollister going to be competing in snaps for tight end. We saw Jacob Hollister has gotten some solid looks over the last few weeks, but I think we've seen in the past Will Dissly, the more he's on the field and sees more snaps, he's a solid player that Russell Wilson does like to look to. So I think he's kind of a long shot play in this matchup too. Philadelphia's side of the ball, the matchup is there for Carson Wentz. Can he take advantage of it? It's hard to say that he's going to be able to. 22.5 pass DVOA for the Seattle Seahawks is one of the worst in the league. They give up 24.1 fantasy points to the opposing quarterback. That is second in the league currently right now. So the matchup is there. Carson Wentz has all his weapons back. Offensive line is still shaky. So I think those are going to kind of cancel each other out. Wentz is going to provide you with some fantasy points, and he's going to give you solid games potentially for Travis Fulgham and also Jalen Rager. But I don't think that Carson Wentz is going to do enough to warrant a ranking as a QB1 by the end of this week. So I like playing and plugging in Fulgham and Rager as wide receiver three types of options in this game. So get them in. But I do like Miles Sanders as well. Going to woo pretty much everybody on the Seattle side of the ball, like I mentioned, but I'm going to boo Carson Wentz. He's going to stay as a boo for me until we see it improve, until we see him be somebody that can really kind of give you a little bit more of a solid floor week in and week out with that upside there, and he's just not providing it. A lot of it has to do with that offensive line situation, which has been one of the worst in football for a better part of the 2020 season. So I'm kind of steering clear. There's going to be better options for you to be able to play this week if you're kind of out there streaming at the position. There are better options to plug in and play ahead of a Carson Wentz this week. And then last game on the docket, if it's played, I'm going to cover it. It's Baltimore at Pittsburgh, 44.5 is the over under here, with Pittsburgh getting the 5.5. And I'm going to double check that right quick because I don't think that sounds right. Uh, no, that is correct. Updated numbers: Pittsburgh's getting 5.5 in this game with Lamar Jackson declared out. Was a pick 'em earlier in the week, so we've it's been a wild week for those Ravens. This game's getting moved to Tuesday because of COVID situation. This game was supposed to be played on Thanksgiving night, which did not happen. Now it's getting moved, so essentially everyone is out for the Ravens. If you want to look at it that way, Lamar Jackson's out. J.K. Dobbins, Mark Ingram, they were declared out as early as Tuesday night during the week this week. So now you're going to be looking at Robert Griffin III is your starting quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens, with Gus Edwards as your starting running back for the Baltimore Ravens. I was a little bit high on Gus Edwards with Lamar Jackson under center, but now with RG3 under center, I'm completely out. Out on everything Ravens in this game. We're going to boo the hell out of the Baltimore Ravens in this game. You do not want any piece of this. So if you own a Raven, Mark Edwards, Mark Andrews, Gus Edwards. Mixed the two up together there. My bad. But uh, those two, those are really your only two viable options out of anything on offense. I mean, you could say Justice Hill as a pass catching PPR option, but it's just the value is just not going to be there now. You're going to avoid all of these players when it comes to the Baltimore Ravens. I'm steering clear at the moment. So outside of that, going to the Pittsburgh Steelers side of the ball, the defense for the Ravens is good. I don't think they're going to be good enough to hold back Ben Roethlisberger in the passing attack. I think your three receivers for the Pittsburgh Steelers are all in decent situations to play this week, and that goes for Deontay Johnson, that goes for Claypool, and that goes for Juju Smith-Schuster. I think you're going to play all three of those if you have them rostered. I don't have any issue getting them in on your season-long lineups. James Conner, though, is the other situation, though. I'm kind of avoiding this week. Run DVOA for the Baltimore Ravens -26.3. If Steelers are getting anything done at all in this matchup, it's going to be through the air. So I'm avoiding James Conner. So I'm going to boo James Conner, but I'm going to give a big woo to my guy Deontay Johnson. He's been a guy that I've really relied on over the course of the last month since he's come back and healthy. He is the wide receiver one for the Steelers, so that is the guy that you want to plug in and play there. And that takes us through the Week 12 fantasy football slate. Flying this puppy solo, like I said at the beginning of the show. Not getting as many of the questions in as I was hoping to see in this here. Like I said, we did it on the YouTube channel, on the Woo Fantasy YouTube channel tonight. A little bit different than you're normally accustomed to. What I wanted to kind of try something different as opposed to going live on Twitter. Ever since they took away the option where it shows up live at the top of your app, and now all you see is the fleets up there, which is garbage. But anyways, that is our Week 12 slate. That is the woos and boos. Let's take them, run with them, get those players in your lineups, take the other players out of your lineups that I pointed to as well. Go check out my article that is live on rotoballer.com now, too. The Week 12 booms and busts, the woos and boos of the week. You want to go check that one out, too. Rotoballer.com. Promo code Woo Fantasy, like I show you here at the bottom of the screen. Get your discount on that premium goodness there. We're giving people money each and every week in DFS. We're giving you the great advice out there and winning people money left and right. So, and that's across all formats too. So go check it out. Woo Fantasy promo code on rotoballer.com. FanDuel also promo code Woo Fantasy on FanDuel. Lots of contests going on right now. Definitely jump in, get you some extra cash on some deposits. If you've not tried FanDuel Sportsbook, wherever you're at, if it's legal gambling, you can download FanDuel Sportsbook. Woo Fantasy is a promo code you can use there as well. So plug that in, get you some extra money to do your bets. But outside of that, maybe we will be with you over the course of the weekend as well. Not too sure of it yet. We're going to see how things. It's a little bit more of a fluid situation. I'm going to be traveling to Nashville to meet up with the co-host, the real FF Goat, Nick Heffley. We're going to watch a little bit of football on Sunday, so we might be able to get in a live pregame episode Sunday morning to help you out with those last-minute lineup requests. So be on the lookout for that. Might put together kind of a quick DFS show tomorrow with Mr. Charisma himself, live from Nashville. So, or technically it's outside Nashville, but be on the lookout out for that too. So might be having a little bit more coming your way over the course of this weekend. So be on the lookout for that. But in anyways, until the next time we talk to you, joining us next time, hopefully, co-host Mr. Nick Heffley, signing off for the co-host at the real FF Goat. I am the Roto Superstar. Follow us on at Woo_Fantasy on Twitter. And until then, another episode of Woo Fantasy.